Not only did Trump pause tariffs, but
it was a trial balloon. That tweet on Monday from that verified account on Twitter about Trump pausing the tariffs.
Guys, if there's one clip you have to watch that explains why Trump backed down and also why the United States has no leverage in these trade negotiations, it's this. And yes, it was even on Fox News.
Something wild just happened this week. Trump paused tariffs on most countries for 90 days but slammed Chinese imports with a brutal 125% tariff. Sounds like another day in politics, right? But here is where it gets dark. On Monday, a mysterious tweet from a verified account claimed the tariff pause was coming. Markets soared. People got excited, then reality hit. It wasn't official. The tweet vanished, stock dipped again, and then, boom, Trump made it real, market rebounded. Now here's the kicker. People are asking, was that tweet a trial balloon, a test, or worse, a deliberate move to let insiders buy the dip and profit off the chaos? Critics are calling it Brazil, accusing Trump's allies for playing the market like a casino. And you know what's scary? It's not just that they might think we are too distracted to notice, it's that they truly believe there is nothing we can do about it. Congress, after all, gave it away its power over tariffs years ago. So today we are breaking down what actually happened with the tariffs, why that tweet set off alarms, and how this fits into a growing pattern of power games and public manipulation. Buckle up, this isn't just about trade policy, it's about trust, power, and who is really pulling the string.
not only did Trump pause tariffs, but he also further solidified his ability to psychologically abuse Americans using a very specific tactic called intermittent reinforcement. This kind of abuse is often associated with the phrase push and pull. It is a cycle of inconsistent reward and punishment that traps you in this cycle of anxiety and hope and dependence. This is the same dynamic as I love you, I hate you, you're safe with me, you're not safe, you can get relief here, oh wait, now you have to suffer. It is exactly what we're seeing with Trump's tariffs, where he's going back and forth and literally saying, oh, the American people, we gotta suffer, it's gonna hurt first, and then we're gonna be prosperous and liberation. It is in this way he is able to position us to be punished, but also look to him for relief, for hope. He can create chaos, and from that chaos, he can be not only the hero, but also the person that is in charge and is in power and control. Because what do we need when we are in chaos? A leader. And he is positioning himself to be that person. I think one of the only ways to break out of this cycle is through mutual aid. If we are not dependent upon these people that control all the stock market and powers and money and all this shit, then we actually can break ourselves out of this need for reward and unfortunately inevitable punishment associated. We don't have to take abuse, but if we're going to do something about it, we gotta name it. So, step one, complete.
It was a trial balloon. That tweet on Monday from that verified account on Twitter about Trump pausing the tariffs, that was a trial balloon. We saw that tweet, watched the market shoot up, figured out it was a lie, watched it drop again. Trump's friends and his cronies and his allies bought the dip and waited for him to pull the trigger. Brazen. Just in our faces. And you know, the scary thing is that at this point, it's not that they think that we're stupid. It's that they really believe that there is nothing that we can do about this. And they might be right, because Congress is just sitting there doing nothing when they're the ones who ceded authority over tariffs to the executive branch to begin with. That is a power and a power expressly reserved for the legislative branch. I don't know, guys. I think we might be.
Guys, if there's one clip you have to watch that explains why Trump backed down and also why the United States has no leverage in these trade negotiations, it's this. And yes, it was even on Fox News.
What happened overnight, and from what I understand, and I'm getting this from people that are talking to the White House, what happened in the bond market overnight, the spike in yields on the 30-year and the 10-year bond which showed that people were dumping our bonds. And who are those people dumping our bonds? Japan, the biggest holder of bonds, was selling bonds. That's what I'm getting from some very big money managers. China, maybe to some extent, but it was largely Japan and others. If you have a mass sale of bonds, that means people are losing confidence in the U.S. economy, on the ability.
Wow. So this, I believe, in the Cold War is what you would have called mutually assured destruction. Interesting to note that Japan didn't have to publish anything. They just silently executed a plan that showed big bully Trump who holds the real cards in this negotiation. And so I'm not sure what's going to happen from here. We still have 10% tariffs on everybody. We still have 125, I think, on China. But clearly, we don't hold as many cards as even the Trump administration thought we did going into these quote-unquote negotiations. So it's going to be probably a bumpy ride.
All right, kids. It's 10:35 on Wednesday morning, April 9th, and Donald Trump just put up a Truth Social post. Based on the lack of respect that China has shown to the world markets, I am hereby raising the tariff charged to China by the United States of America to 125% effective immediately. At some point, hopefully in the near future, China will realize that the days of ripping off the USA and other countries is no longer sustainable or acceptable. Conversely, based on the fact that more than 75 countries have called representatives of the United States, those countries have said nobody's calling us back, including the Departments of Commerce, Treasury, and the USTR, to negotiate a solution to the subjects being discussed relative to the trade barriers, tariffs, currency manipulation, and non-monetary tariffs, yada, yada, yada. So because 75 countries have called and said we want to negotiate, he's authorizing a 90-day pause and a substantially lowered reciprocal tariff during this period of 10%. Okay, also effective immediately. Okay, so he raised the tariff on China from 104% to 125%, and then he's a little unclear. He said he's putting a 90-day pause on either all of the other tariffs or only on those 75 countries that have called to negotiate. And he's lowering those tariffs to 10% effective immediately. So because I saw the stock market spiked like 2,000 points. And I was like, oh, I wonder if this is another fake news thing like what we were dealing with 2 days ago. But no, it appears that he's put a 90-day pause on at least 75 of the tariffs that he implemented, reducing them to 10%. But he raised the tariff on China to 125% effective immediately. So this is the kind of schizophrenic bullshit that manufacturers, when they're deciding where they're going to build a manufacturing facility, is going to 100% determine for them in their minds, we're not building it in the United States. Because this shit, all of this now just changed in less than a week after Donald Trump essentially worked as hard as he could to destroy the entire global economy and the economy of the United States. Now he's just flipped on a dime with no rational basis whatsoever. And he increased the tariff on China another 21 points on no rational basis whatsoever. He's a crazy person. All right.
Oh, look, Donald Trump put a pause on the tariffs for most countries for 90 days, but he raised the ones on China. So he paused, the island full of penguins that doesn't, send us shit. But China, where we get a ton of stuff, that one's still going on and getting larger. And his fucking fanboys are treating this like it's some sort of win. Textbook art of the deal. This is not art of the deal. This is a moron who doesn't know what he's doing, who has to keep doing things, then having it blow up in his face, then walk it back, and then instead of learning from that, does it again and has it blow up in his face again. And if you need to understand, why is this happening? Why would he do this? Aside from just, the blanket statement of he's a moron, the guy who filed bankruptcy 6 times, who somehow managed to run 4 casinos into the ground. The guy who did that isn't good at business, which is shocking to some, apparently. But if you need any further evidence, allow me to give you Exhibit A, which is, where did Donald Trump come up with the idea for tariffs in the first place? Take a walk back in time with me, back to when he was going to run for office the first time in 2016. He had no economic plan. He didn't know what to do. So what did he do in response to that? He reached out to his son-in-law, Jared Kushner. He said, hey, find me economic advisors. Find me somebody. I kind of like this. I like that. China's bad, I guess. Find me something. So Jared did a deep dive, decided to do some serious research. And by that, I mean he went on Amazon and looked at books about the economy. Not read them, just looked at them, like the covers and the titles, until he saw one that he liked, Death by China. And he's like, ooh, that's a good title. I like the book art. This book that was co-written by Peter Navarro. And then, without reading the book, he contacted Peter Navarro and was like, would you like to be a part of Donald Trump's plan? Would you like to help form his economic plan? Peter Navarro was like, yes. And something Peter Navarro wrote about was tariffs. But that wasn't just his idea. He was citing someone else who was like an expert in tariffs, a guy named Ron Vera. He cited him multiple times across 6 different books. He wrote about how Ron Vera believed in tariffs. Tariffs are a good thing. Tariffs are what can turn it around for us, et cetera, et cetera. So then Donald Trump gets elected in 2016. Shortly after he's elected, a memo gets sent out by Ron Vera, sent out around D.C., saying that tariffs are the way to go. This is the thing. Sent from an email purported to belong to Ron Vera. So Ron Vera and Peter Navarro are pushing tariffs onto Donald Trump, that he should be doing this. There's only one problem with Ron Vera.
Ron Vera doesn't exist. He never has. The economics expert that Peter Navarro has long cited to explain why he's so gung-ho on tariffs, this person, Ron Vera, is a made-up person. He is a fictional person. Peter Navarro invented Ron Vera as his expert source so he could quote this expert source over and over and over again in his crackpot books. Who is Ron Vera? Ron Vera is an anagram of Navarro, which is his last name.
He doesn't exist. His idea was so great and so amazing that he literally couldn't find anyone else that would back it up, so he had to create an imaginary person with an anagram out of his last name in the most narcissistic shit ever. Meanwhile, the tariffs on China are still happening, but China pays for those, right?
With these 104% tariffs that went into effect, we think that China is going to have to pay for it, but it tells a story of a special needs toy importer. He's been paying a tariff because he gets stuff from China, $26,000 a year. His tariff bill went from $26,000 at midnight to $346,000. It sounds like he's going to have to go ahead and close down part of his business.
So that's a situation where toys for children with certain disabilities are gone. There's a lot of people who just aren't going to care about that. They might care, though, if the base price of iPhones goes up to like $3,500. And that's just part of it. It's not just that the base price would go up that much. It's also the fact that there will be much fewer quantities. Like, they'll sell out and you won't be able to get them. They just won't be available because they won't be able to manufacture them at the level that they currently do. This is not the art of the deal. This is the art of fucking everything up royally.
All right, we've got some new breaking news on the Trump tariffs. So apparently Trump has come out and said he is temporarily pausing the tariffs for 75 countries for 90 days. For some countries, he has reduced the tariff to 10%, and for China, he has increased it to 125%. Let's take a look at what the president said. So this is what he typed out in Truth Social. It says, based on the lack of respect that China has shown to the world markets, I am hereby raising the tariffs charged to China by the United States of America to 125%, effective immediately. At some point, hopefully in the near future, China will realize that the days of ripping off the USA and other countries is no longer sustainable or acceptable. Conversely, based on the fact that more than 75 countries have called representatives of the United States, including departments of Commerce, Treasury, and the USTR to negotiate a solution to the subjects being discussed relative to trade barriers, tariffs, currency manipulation, and non-monetary tariffs, and that these countries have not, at my strong suggestion, retaliated in any way, shape, or form against the United States. I have authorized a 90-day pause and a substantially lower reciprocal tariffs during this period of 10%, also effective immediately. Thank you for your attention. The bitch bent the knee. His bitch ass bent the fucking knee. You make all these threats, and you don't even like. Trump just showed the world right now that as a nation, all we are is a bunch of barking dogs with no teeth. The only time we have teeth is when it comes to military. Everything else, we got no teeth.
So here's what happened, and I need you to follow the timeline closely because that is where things get really interesting. On Monday, a tweet from a verified Twitter account claimed that President Trump was about to pause tariffs on most nations for 90 days. This wasn't a small rumor, it came from a source that looked legitimate enough to spark immediate movement in financial markets. Stocks surged, traders reacted instantly. There was excitement, optimism, even relief. People assumed that the trade war, or at least the heat of it, might be cooling down. But there was a problem. The White House hadn't said a word. No press release, no official statement, no confirmation, just a tweet. Within hours, skepticism crept in. Analysis started asking questions. Was the tweet accurate? Who sent it? Why was there no follow-up from the administration? Eventually, the tweet disappeared, and as fast as the market had jumped, it started to fall again. That is when people started to get suspicious. Was this just a rumor gone viral, or it was a coordinated move? Because the next day, just as people were recovering from the wipe slash, Trump actually did announce the tariff pause. Not only that, he announced a staggering 125% tariff on Chinese imports, shifting the burden heavily onto a single target while giving the rest of the world a temporary reprieve. So let's step back and look at what just happened. A single tweet with a confirmation sent the market flying, then falling, and then flying again once the real news dropped. Now imagine if you were someone in the known, someone close to the administration. You saw the tweet, knew it was coming, or maybe even helped it go out. You watched the market react. You bought in during the dip, knowing full well the bounce was on its way, and you cashed out once the official announcement hit. That is not speculation. That is statistics, a financial one. A political one. Some people are calling it dry balloon, looking on official information to test public reaction. But in this case, it seems to go deeper. It feels like market manipulation. And here's the thing. The kind of maneuver isn't new. We have seen administrations use strategic links for decades, but there is a fine line between floating policy to gauge reaction and weaponizing disinformation for financial or political gain. What is especially disturbing here is the braveness of it all. It happened out in the open, on Twitter, in front of everyone. No substitute, no back channels, just a tweet that moved billions in capital and may have allowed some well-connected actors to make a lot of money, while the rest of us watch the chaos unfold. And the reaction, anger, frustration, exhaustion, but also a sense of helplessness. People are looking at Congress and asking, where are you? Because constitutionally, tariff power rests with the legislative branch. It always has. But over the years, Congress has voluntarily said that authority to the executive, letting president impose tariffs unilaterally in the name of national security, economy, fairness, or geopolitical leverage. This latest move is a perfect example of what kind of unchecked power looks like. One man can swing global trade policy and move the stock market without oversight, without transparency, and apparently without consequence. And the most alarming part, it's working. Trump's allies are applauding the move, claiming it's a bold stance against China's unfair trade practice. His critics are screaming foul play, and the average citizen is stuck in the middle, wondering if they are just paused in a much bigger game. Now let's talk about China for a moment. A 125% tariff isn't just an economic slap, it's a declaration. It signals a dramatic escalation in the trade war, one that could impact everything from tech to agriculture to retail prices at your local store. The short-term effect might be limited. After all, the rest of the world is getting a 90-day break, but the long-term implications are serious. If China retaliates, and they probably will, we are going to see inflation rise again. Supply chains will tighten, consumer price will go up, And the people who are supposed to be winning these trade battles, regular Americans, they will be footing the bill. Meanwhile, the billionaires and the insiders who got in at the right moment thanks to that tweet, they will be just fine. And that brings us back to the root of this issue, accountability. This isn't just about tariffs or China, it's about power. Who has it, who uses it, and who gets left behind. Because the deeper story here is that we have a system where policy decisions with massive global consequences are being telegraphed, tested, and even gamed in real time, often on social media with zero checks and balance. The markets have essentially become a political battlefield, and Trump, whether you love him or hate him, has figured out how to weaponize that dynamic better than almost anyone. A single tweet can move billions, and if that tweet is strategic, even if it is unofficial, it becomes a tool of influence, of profit, of control. And let's not pretend this is one-off incident. We have seen similar plays in the past, rumors about oil production cuts, vague statements about interest rates, selective links about military movement. All of it affects markets. All of it creates opportunities for people who are connected and confusion for everyone else. So where does that leave us? It leaves us with a system that looks more and more like a rigged game, where the rules are flexible, the referees are absent, and the players with the most chips can make the board teeth in their favor whenever they want. And if you are thinking, well, isn't that illegal? Good question, maybe, but proving instant coordination and profit in these scenarios is incredibly difficult. The people doing it know that they operate in the gray zone, just outside the reach of enforcement. And Congress, the one constitution with the power to step in and reassert control over trade policy, they are silent, paralyzed, either complete or too afraid to challenge the executive. Because let's be honest, tariff power is leverage, is a weapon, and no politician wants to give up a weapon even if it's not theirs to wield. So here we are, watching it all unfold in real time. Tweet as policy, market moves as strategy, and a public that is growing more cynical by the day. Because it's not just about corruption, it's about confidence, trust in institution, faith in the idea that systems, however fluid, is at least operating on a level playing field. When the trust erodes, when people believe the game is rigged, it doesn't just affect politics, it affects everything: economy, stability, democracy itself. And that is why this moment matters. Not because one tweet, not because one tariff, but because of what it reveals about how power is being used and abused at the highest levels of government. We are not just watching a trade war, we are watching a stress test of the entire system. Thanks for sticking with me through that breakdown. If you found this commentary helpful, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and drop your thoughts in the comments. I did love to hear how you see this situation. Was this smart strategy, shady manipulation, or something else entirely? Stay tuned, we are just getting started.